I'd be lying if I said it was good. I woke up the next day feeling empty. This wasn't strategy. This was frustration talking. Exit, set up businesses, traveled the world with my business, took it to 6 countries, invested in businesses, and after all of this, people still want to put you in a box.
You know, I think with all the people that glamorize entrepreneurship, I think the hardest problem to solve is what to do.
I actually became complacent. And I think that was the biggest learning I had after setting my business is
And
you're
you
back. Question yourself.
Like, was I just lucky? Or why am I not able to replicate?
And if there's no founder project fit, that guy is not going to stick around. It's not a sign. Like a gut feeling that someone doesn't want to give up on. There has to be a reason that sticks with them more than the money. It's always easier for someone looking at you to give you a narrative if you don't claim your own. It's easier for them to digest. So why not create your own narrative?
It's not every day that we sit down with an Emirati entrepreneur who has gone through it all. He navigated the structured corridors of corporate banking, where he managed very high-profile relationships, managed a multi-generational family business, restructured it, took it out of debt, and went on to start an international brand called Under 500, which scaled to 6 countries and was later on sold to a $1.6 billion giant, Kitopi. This person is Mahmoud Bartawi, and now he is investing his time, money, and efforts to give back to the ecosystem. Now, Mahmoud has been on countless interviews. So my goal today is not to re-ask the questions that previous interviewers have asked him, but rather explore the unanswered questions that our audience, aspiring founders, early stage builders, and grinders would find interest in and would find a lot of value in. As we usually do with InvestPod, we're taking this interview from an unconventional route. And to achieve this mission, we want to unpack the identity behind the success and link everything back to action. And the key to achieving this is a message that Mahmoud shared on February 28th of 2025. But more on that later in the episode. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So, Mahmoud, the deal for Under 500 is done. You officially sold your company to a giant in the Middle East, Kitopi. The papers are signed, the money is in the bank account. And for years, your identity was Mahmoud, the co-founder of Under 500. In that instant, when the chapter slams shut and you move on to a next chapter in your life, how did that feel?
I'd be lying if I said it was good. I woke up the next day feeling empty. I remember this was London. I woke up, I thought it was done. And, I would be happy because you work really hard, especially if you're working on something for 8 years. I was sitting and building. And then when I finally sold, I didn't realize that the next day I would feel so empty. So I woke up with that feeling, and after that I realized that life is about the journey. Life is not only about getting to that place. And it also made me realize, once I sold, I realized that I needed to build my identity again, because as you said, Mahmoud Under 500, and then how do you rebuild again from scratch? So you go from becoming an expert at something back into being a noob. And that actually gave me the courage to try so many things that I actually wanted to try, but they were always in the back of my mind, because in society, when people put you into a box, you they kind of want you for the expertise you have, and if you don't create your own kind of narrative, then people are more comfortable in the version they see you in.
Agreed, and we'll actually touch upon that because I saw a Twitter post that you posted this year. I think it was February this year. But we'll touch upon that towards the end of the episode. To understand why the moment you exited felt this way, we have to link things back to how things started. So you're unique in your case because you had the option early on to go into corporate or to pursue work in your family business or to even start your own thing. So I want to narrow down into this decision-making process because I think many people here could relate to this situation. So my question to you is, first of all, why did you decide to go into corporate instead of pursuing work in your family business?
It's a great question. I think that's a decision many people face early on in their life. For me, it came to me, I actually was doing part-time jobs in my dad's company, and I did part-time jobs as call center in Showtime and in HSBC Bank.
Okay.
So by the time I finished university and had to decide for a full-time job, I remember I was about 17 years old. I went to my father. I said, Baba, ENBD, at the time was called NBD. I said, NBD is offering me 11,000 dirhams to join them. I said, Baba, if I want to work for you, how much will you pay me? He says, I pay an engineer with 10 years of experience 6,000 dirhams. And that's right away when I made my decision. My decision was not based on on money. My decision was not based on anything except I wanted to prove that I could build my own legacy. I wanted to prove that I didn't want to work with lower expectations. I wanted to work in a place that gave me the highest bar possible. So for me, choosing the full-time job was a conscious decision because I also wanted to show and prove to myself that if there is a scoreboard, I want to own it. If there are any losses, I also want to own it. And I also want to build my legacy.
Fair enough. You see, this is a story I relate with, but from a different perspective, because I remember when I was in high school, I had my own business. And I've been business focused for a very, very long period of time. And upon graduation, I had two options. One, travel abroad, go to the best university, find the best job possible. But in that scenario, I wouldn't have been able to pursue entrepreneurship. You would be too concentrated on just trying to live and trying to make it out in an environment that is so foreign to you. Or another option, which is stay here, study here. It's an environment you're familiar with, and try to build something of your own here.
Like a side hustle entrepreneurship.
Exactly, while I'm studying.
Right.
So I picked the second because I thought it represents me more. But moving on to my next question, I just want to understand, where did Under 500 come into the picture once you started your corporate career, knowing very well that you also maybe had some responsibilities in the family business?
Yeah, throughout the time, like I decided not to join initially my dad's company because I wanted to carve out my own kind of path. But, it was unfortunate that my father died and then I got dragged back into the family business. The truth is we are 10 of us, waratha.
Okay.
So brothers and sisters, and they all said to me, Mahmoud, you're the banker, you're going to solve it for free, come back to the family. So I did a side hustle in my family business for a year, not paid. And I had to actually take care of a lot of family debt, restructure it with the bank, deal with my brothers and sisters who were shareholders at the time, create a structure for them to operate. So it was a lot of learning for me. I would be lying if I say I knew everything. I like to read a lot, and I think that kind of pushed me, to find those answers that I didn't necessarily have. But after setting the plan for 10 years for the family business at the time, I decided I wanted to go back to my corporate job, which was the bank, and I stayed in the bank. I stayed in the bank, and it was really exciting for me because I wanted to meet people who were also successful businessmen. So I told you I was working at NBD, the biggest bank at the time.
Yes.
The corporate bank of NBD was banking the top businessmen, and this was my chance to meet them.
So it was a client-facing role.
Exactly.
Okay.
I used to basically get a client-facing role. I used to get deposits from clients and give them loans.
Okay.
So like a client would have, a building on Sheikh Zayed Road and say, I want to build on another plot in, say, the IFC or wherever. Can you fund my plot of land?
Makes sense.
I would be the guy that presents, goes out with the customer, understands the deal, present it to my boss, who would present it to the board or whoever had to decide, the credit department. And that was kind of my job. At a certain point, I realized that there were skills, but the most important skill was actually the client-facing skill and dealing with these people.
Yeah.
Because if you're a banker, you're like a real estate agent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're
But
always
a fancier
fancier.
version.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're kind of a fancier version, and the more fancier you are, like you can have a private banker, an investment banker, a corporate banker, or you can have like an entry level.
Yeah.
What makes a difference is how you deal with your customer.
Okay.
If you can understand your customer, the better you deal with the customer, the higher profile people you can attract basically to you.
Okay.
So, with that in mind, I was doing that, but still I felt there was a gap.
Mm.
And the gap actually came to me from a problem I had.
Mm-hmm.
So I was about 27 years old. I lived in Suqaim, and I remember going to this restaurant. I won't name it, but it was the only healthy food restaurant next to my house.
Okay.
So I said to the guy there, "Can I franchise your location?" And he said, "What do you mean franchise?" I said, "I'll take your location, copy paste,
Yeah.
and I pay you money."
Okay.
And he said, "No, we don't need more money." So I go to Subway and I said to Subway, "Can I try this and franchise?" At the time, Subway were franchising, and they said, "You don't have any experience."
Mm.
So it was actually born from frustration because I was eating from these two places. The menu didn't taste good,
Mm-hmm.
all the time the same food, and I refused to eat anything that wasn't healthy. At the time, I was going to the gym,
Yeah.
and I was, I was counting,
In that era, yeah.
Exactly. And it just happened so that the easiest way for me to solve the problem was to actually create my own solution.
Okay. And I remember you also had a co-founder join you on this. So how did that come about?
Exactly. Fadi, he was, still is excellent guy. I wanted to start this healthy food brand because I don't know how to cook.
Okay.
I suck at cooking. And, I needed to order from somewhere.
Yeah.
I had the bank job and, I was getting paid enough to order, but I didn't have anyone to make the food I wanted.
Right.
I decided to create the healthy food restaurant. And what happened was I couldn't actually start because they wouldn't give me the franchise.
Uh-huh.
I had no idea how to start. So
Yeah.
I actually franchised first a non-healthy food brand.
Okay.
Got the experience for a year. It's called German Doner Kebab. Yeah.
Okay.
Just as a franchisee and understood operations.
Okay.
After 1 year, I sold it back to the owner at the break-even price.
Okay.
Got the experience, and then I went to a branding guy to help me with the branding for under 500.
Okay.
The guy doing my branding ended up becoming my co-founder,
Fadi.
Fadi.
Ah.
He went to AUD, I went to AUS.
Okay.
I didn't know him well except from common friends, and then we got to know each other. Within 2 months, we both realized it was really nice to work with each other. He was Egyptian, I'm Emirati. We had a lot of similar values.
Yeah.
And it was great chemistry. We were complete opposites.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also in that, I wasn't looking for a co-founder, but it came to me, and I don't think he was looking for a co-founder. It happened. So sometimes it happens organically as well.
Yeah. So then you opened your first location.
Exactly.
Right, of under 500.
Exactly. Our first location. That was in JLT, and then Business Pay opened a couple of months later. So we didn't have enough money even for the first location, but we started borrowing and borrowing. Things went wrong. I remember for both locations, the contractor had taken the money and gone.
Whoa.
I don't know what the thing is in Dubai at the time.
With contractors.
With contractors.
Yeah.
So we were stuck. We had to borrow. So by the time the two shops were open, we were all in with our network as well, like not just our savings.
Did you face any backlash from people at the bank? Like, for example, I assume a scenario where, let's say something went wrong at work.
Right.
And if anyone at work is aware of what you're doing outside, then they would just use that as the immediate excuse as to why this thing went wrong.
I remember this was maybe the second year running under 500. I was sitting in the bank, and in the beginning it was cool. I used to go and tell everyone I have this brand. It's called Under 500.
Okay.
What happened after 2 years? We were sitting in the bank, and I see people start ordering in their cubicles, and then the thought came to me: what if my boss finds out? What if other people find out? What if the boss's boss finds out?
Yeah.
How am I going to fix this? So I remember going to my boss and trying to obviously bribe him with food and say, here's under 500. And he said, no, I don't eat healthy. You need to declare what you own to the bank. So at the time, the bank had a policy where if you had a business, you need to declare it. As long as it's non-competing with the bank, so the bank was okay with it because Under 500 was a healthy food brand. The bank
Yeah.
sells loans and credit cards, etc., and they weren't competing. But I know exactly that there was pressure building and pressure mounting, and that's when I decided that if I get 50% of my salary that I got at the bank, I would quit my bank job and go all in on Under 500. And that was the bar I set for myself.
That's an interesting number. So was Fadi at the time also working a full-time job?
No, no.
Fadi was full-time on the
Fadi
business.
was full time, but I had a loan that I had taken. So remember, I told you earlier I needed to borrow money.
Yes.
I had borrowed money from the bank I was working in. Being a staff, I got a better rate.
Okay.
So the longer I stayed at the bank, the less rate we would have to pay on that loan. So
Okay.
that's kind of the Fadi and I were in agreement that it started making no sense when I spend more time on my side hustle than my actual job.
Right. It's a two-way sacrifice. Like at the end of the day, you're both working towards a common goal. Very interesting.
Exactly.
I remember when I first started my business, which was at 18. It was a marketing business. Back then, marketing was like everyone's job, right? Everyone was selling marketing. And when we started, and this is something that I learned later on, me and my co-founder were just clashing on everything, right? There was no set responsibilities for each.
Yeah.
We're both going to do this and we're both going to do
Yeah.
that. And you later on come to realize that is the most inefficient way that you can ever run a business. And if you were ever to go and find a co-founder, you want to find someone that's going to fill all the gaps you can't cover.
Right.
And I also remember when we would have conversations about this and try to split the work. And he would come ask about my work, and I go ask about his work. And it's always clashing. So yeah.
It's super tough. It's super tough. We had all of these moments happen to us exactly the way you're saying.
Yeah.
In terms of values, so I would say if someone's looking to get a co-founder, the best advice would be to look for someone with similar values, because those don't change, really. If you think someone's a crook, it's very hard for you to change your perception.
Yeah.
But if you think someone doesn't have a skill to do something, then they can always learn that skill. So I would say values and then skills.
But a problem which I see is that sometimes you align on the values and you both think in the same way, but two major differences could be like between you. One is circumstance, and then the other is the level of work that you put into the business. So I find people going into businesses where their expectation of how much they work is much, much lower than where it should be, right?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and then somebody that goes into the business thinking that all their role is that they're going to connect some people together and inject a bit of cash. And then you find the other co-founder, which has the same equity as that other guy, working his butt off
Exactly.
to get things going.
So if the way I see it, when I talk about values, if two people are workaholics, you're aligned. If one is because if you're doing a side hustle and you have a full-time job and you're putting your everything into it, you got to be a workaholic. There's no other explanation to why you do it logically. But if you're both aligned on working really hard, and then that's okay, and you argue about work, that's fine. But if one of you decides that, like you said, I just want to be a boss and I don't really want to show up, I just want to put some money, that's an equity partner. That's not really a co-founder. So it's very important to understand in the beginning who you are. And so say, for example, me and you decide to do a business. You say, Mahmoud, I have a ton of money. You do the work. Here's the money. Fine, I'm going to do the work, but I'm also going to take a salary from that.
Yeah.
Because you don't show up to work. You're an investor in this situation. Unless we both go there and we split the responsibilities. So there is this traditional way of thinking, which is one puts the money, they can go 50-50, that's fine. But they go 50-50 and that person takes something for their time, because one is investing time, right?
Yep.
Or the other way, where the person who puts the time decides to do sweat equity. So say they agree that one person, the guy doing the work, salary is 10,000. Into a year, that's 120,000. So the person who's not working puts 120,000.
Yeah.
And they kind of match.
I agree, but I think this is the correct way to run it, but I think it's always a misalignment of expectations from the beginning.
It's always so.
Yeah.
That's why I always say work with someone 2 months. Don't hire them. Don't co-found. Don't hire. Everyone can have a nice CV. Everyone.
Yeah.
I always work with someone minimum 2 months before I decide that I'm gonna give them that offer. And I think it's fair when I joined the banks, it was always a 3 months probation.
Yeah, صح. Yeah.
Why not learn, right? If you're
Agree.
working at a professional place and they need 3 months to evaluate you. Now, I always passed it, but why not, and in the real world, I think that, amount of time you need to spend to vet someone should be in that time. It shouldn't be looking at their CV. That, with ChatGPT today.
Agreed. Yeah. There is another point I want to touch back on, which this is something to do with maybe public perception more. Since you're the first Emirati that I'm hosting on the show, and somebody that has ran through the corridors that I just described earlier, do you think that starting a business as an Emirati is easier than starting a business as an expat?
That's a great question. I think Dubai is the easiest place to start a business, period.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you happen to be in the minority 10% of the population, then there's like a trade license discount you get in the beginning. But apart from that, and you get some government support if you do something that's like Telegram level.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You might get some more favor. But, getting to somewhere like Telegram, again, is also a lot of effort, years and years. So I would say, is it easier to do business as an Emirati? I'm not sure. I would say, is it easier to connect with people being an Emirati? I think because you have, the being one in many that sits on the podcast chair.
Yeah.
So maybe you have some kind of like people notice you.
Okay.
So I would say you get noticed more. But in terms of ease of doing business, like if I go to DED, which is Dubai Economic Department, and show up there and you show up there,
Yeah.
they'd probably give us the same privilege. Like they wouldn't let me first
Yep.
be in front of you. But if the guy working there is an Emirati and I'm an Emirati, he might say hi to me.
Yeah.
And then I could say from the hi, hey, listen, I'm actually stuck here. But there is no you could also just as well say hi and build that relationship.
Yeah.
So I would say starting as an Emirati doesn't really give you an edge in business. It's more about how you use that. Use the fact that you're 1 in 10.
Uh-huh.
So you show up at a place, you look a bit different. You're obviously going to be noticed.
I agree.
What do you do with that?
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So now that we have a better understanding of the initial stages of you working in the bank, then building the side hustle, and then reaching the exit, I want to circle back onto that exit. And the way I want to do it, the way I want to frame it, is back to the Twitter post that you posted on February 28th.
The Twitter post.
Yeah. So I'm going to say it out loud, and you kind of touched upon it. You said the idea of being boxed. And excuse me for being very specific here. You said, built businesses, sold one, still told I'm not a CEO. 70K across platforms, still told I'm not a content creator. Invested in multiple startups, still told I'm not an investor. People will put you in a box, don't shrink to fit. In the context of the exit, can you put that statement into
Yeah, I
story?
didn't think you'd ask me this, but great question. And look, I remember I was sitting in my car, and this was me sitting down, looking at my notes, typing this message out, and I pressed send. This wasn't strategy. This was frustration talking. Exit, set up businesses, traveled the world with my business, took it to 6 countries, invested in businesses, and after all of this, people still want to put you in a box. And I think, this is not just for me. This frustration speaks for anybody that feels in that situation, that just because they started at a certain role, they don't need to be defined on that role. It's always easier for someone looking at you to give you a narrative if you don't claim your own. It's easier for them to digest. So why not create your own narrative?
So Could this potentially be linked to perhaps the way you struggled with identifying who you are after the exit?
Exactly. That's also part of it. Sometimes you're Mahmoud under 500, and the next day, yes, you have money in your account, but who are you? And how do you rebuild again? So it humbles you. To me, it was very humbling. I remember I felt empty the next day. I woke up saying, I was in the UK. I woke up, I said, this is, fine, money in the account, but who am I? And then you go back from that expert, I was thinking to myself, I'm such an expert in this, but I have 4 years, they're called golden handcuffs, where you're not allowed to do the thing that you're an expert at. So what are you left with? Trying new stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I tried to do, and I got to know different businesses that I wanted to invest in. I did a bit of that. I tried different things to be basically. I tried different things that I thought would be interesting, but I would be lying if I say I found it. I'm still looking for something that's, I don't think anything has filled the shoes of being a startup founder of a brand that I took, and I wouldn't say I took. I'd say we took as a team to. It solved the problem, because at the time, the problem seemed very big, and at this point, I don't see a problem. I see many problems, but I'm not sure which problem it is that actually speaks to me, because you have the logical part, then you have the emotional part. Yes, you can go through the route of opening a bunch of, you go online, you can check Reddit, you can do it by Reddit comments, you can do it by what's the biggest market size and work backwards and create a startup for yourself. But if you use a logical way and not an emotional way, like if it's not really your problem, then you're likely to give up when things get tough, if you get money, but
Agreed.
if it's something that speaks to you, it actually will pull you through those sleepless nights. Like when you don't get paid, why do you still show up to work?
Yeah.
It like goes against human, but if it's your problem and you want to solve it and you really believe in it. So I see a lot of founders, they choose the right pitch deck, they get funded, they get into it, and then later on, they get this thing called burnout, or they kind of look like, wobbly. Why does it come? It's because from the beginning you just chose something because it was vanity.
You know what? I completely understand where you're coming from. I remember the first business I ever started, it was not born out of passion. I wouldn't say it was born out of passion. But as a builder, as somebody that likes building, once you find that there is something that you can do, and people will pay a rate for that something that you can do, and it's something that you can scale, there's always this let's say daily dose of dopamine. You're trying to chase that next deal, you're trying to chase that next win, and you know that you can deliver. And that feeling can't be replaced by anything else. So even when we shut down our company due to a lot of mistakes made, there was a period in between where I was, as you said, trying so many different things, but never committing so much, because I never got that feeling again, right? And I remember reading a post about the founder of Loom. Loom is it's like a software like OBS, but at the time it was like quite revolutionary. And he put on Reddit, he sold his company, by the way, for like 900 million or $1 billion. And he went on Reddit and put a post, and he said, there is something about waking up every single day, knowing that there is something that you can achieve and a better place that you can reach. But once I sold the company, talking about himself, I felt like there is nothing else to achieve. I can go wherever I want.
Exactly.
I can buy whatever I want. I can be wherever I want. Nobody can ever tell me what to do again. And yet, he felt so empty.
That's such a powerful feeling, because I know exactly what he's talking about. And you never go all in, because look, I'll be completely honest. It's crazy to think that you're going to jump in with 2 feet and take the money from your entire network to put into a project and be successful again. But just that fear, even if you've done it once, even if you've done it twice. I exited my first business, which was a franchisee, at break even. The second one, I sold it for money. even if you do, and I failed so many times after. I would be lying to you if I didn't say I failed at least 5 notable times. Like, proper projects I invested in, I tried to bring to Dubai, or I set up from Dubai, fail, 5 in a row. And each time you learn something new. And if you don't try, you're not going to learn that new thing.
Yeah.
So don't think like I sold the business. I actually became complacent.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest learning I had after selling my business. Is
And
you're
you start
back to being a
questioning
new.
yourself.
Question yourself.
Like, was I just lucky?
Was I lucky?
Why am I not able to replicate? Yeah.
But then here you are. You did 8 years with hardly any salary. You did 8 years with hardly any. When you think about it logically, it didn't make money until I sold the business.
Yeah.
Because we kept growing it.
Yeah.
Growth requires capital. And your investors don't want you to take skin. They want you to have skin in the game.
Yep.
If you start taking money out, you also don't look very, So you wait to the end, and then you have. But then, how do you start? And more important, what do you start?
Yeah.
What actually speaks to you that you're not going to give up on? When someone comes up with 1,001 reasons, like how do you tell the market, no, I'm staying here, I'm going to get it, this is my space, I'm going to dominate it. And I think that has to be something that comes from inside you.
I think with all the people that glamorize entrepreneurship, which is not right or wrong, I think the hardest problem to solve is what to do. At least from my own experience, and I think you're also kind of aligning on that point.
Yeah, I mean, you go online, you find these people that give you 101 ways to do it, but it's not, because if you start that way, that's the way I see. Yeah, you need to be in a big market. There's I think it was one of these books I was reading. It was Andreessen maybe who said, if you're an A founder in a C market, not good. If you're a C founder in an A market, even better for them, because you have more chance to make mistakes in a growing market.
Yeah.
So I get that. You need to be in the right market, but maybe the thing doesn't speak to you.
Agreed.
And if there's no founder project fit, that guy is not going to stick around.
Yeah.
I've invested in a few companies. I had to learn this the hard way. So I completely understand how it's not science. It's like a gut feeling that someone doesn't want to give up on. It might be a childhood problem that led to this. It might be they need to prove to someone. There has to be a reason that sticks with them more than the money. If it's just about the money, market size, pitch deck, it never, that's like a corporate guy that joins a running company later on.
Yeah.
A profile.
Agreed. So, while talking about projects and figuring out what to do next, now you're a podcaster yourself. Started business with Bartawi about 9 months ago. 30 episodes in, mashallah.
Thank you.
As a builder, I think maybe, and that's just my assumption, this podcast entails something bigger that you're trying to build. So, if you allow me to ask this question, and if you're going to answer it honestly, what is the thing that you're building which is being built on top of the podcast? And just for clarification, he has not told me anything about this. It's purely out of curiosity.
The reason for launching a podcast was 2 things. I remember thinking, I remember going on a podcast my first podcast, and thinking, wow, I said so much, but I didn't say enough. There's more to be said. And then that got me thinking that there are many people around me that have stories that they want to share, like I wanted to share my story on a podcast. I said, how can I let the future businessmen of Dubai, the businessmen today and the future businessmen of Dubai, get on a podcast and share their story? Like I was sharing an exit story, but there were many people still getting into the game.
Yeah.
So where do they go to share their story? Someone that's made it in Dubai, where does he share his story? And that was kind of the reason I did. The second reason is I worked in the bank meeting influential people, and with every experience came a new story.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to get, I wanted to do the thing that I enjoy doing. So I enjoy sitting with people, listening to successful people's stories. And why do I say successful people? It's because they've actually made a million mistakes.
Yeah.
When someone's successful, everyone looks at them like they're good and they've made it. The truth is that person is fearless. They get slapped in their face every day with life.
Yeah.
And they're still there, standing, learning, not afraid to admit it. I've never met, if you're going to ask, if I'm, I know this might be off topic, but if you're going to ask me what the difference between that successful person that I meet on my podcast and someone else, it's that guy works much faster. He solves a problem much faster. He takes feedback much faster. He doesn't think about himself. He thinks about the person he's sitting with. They're more intentional. And I wanted to spend my time with those kind of people. So I created the podcast to invite people that I thought had interesting stories. And I think by sharing that, the ecosystem will get more motivated. Remember, we're not in the valley here. We're not in Silicon Valley. We're sitting in Dubai. Yes, Dubai is advanced in many places. The startup scene is still just getting started. So yes, I have an exit, but I don't see many people around me with exits. What if I could help them with those exits through a podcast? What if the podcast was the way for them to get confident, was a way for them to get their story out there and possibly bring investors? So I see the podcast as not just for fun. I see it as deal flow. I see it as venture. I see it with a lot of different angles. Remember, I'm a banker by profession. So I try to dissect, and to be completely honest with you, it's not just a vain podcast. I try to take out from the person's heart, their story, the real story, the thing that actually makes them who they are. And I think the origin story of someone is something that can be crafted in a nice way. When I see people giving pitch decks, I saw a while ago, I was at this, I think it's called GTEx, North Star, and they got people and they got 2 minutes each to give their pitch deck. And I remember I had a friend call me and say, Mahmoud, you have to help me out. Like, she's actually a CEO in a company, and I'm on the board of it. And she said, I'm pitching in a couple of days. You need to come here. You need to help me out. You need to be in the audience. I said, hold on. What is the problem? She said, the problem is I only have 2 minutes. I said, okay, that's a lot of time, 2 minutes. Like, what are you going to say? She's like, I have like 30 pages. I said, no, the hard part is to simplify things. Come, let's sit down and simplify things. And what we did was we took the people are only going to remember from your entire pitch 1 or 2 things. And that 1 or 2 things needs to be something they can connect with emotionally. You need to put yourself in the seat of the person that's looking at those pitches that are coming every 2 hours. So what is the part that connects emotionally with someone from your origin story? And if you can say that nice and you can say it proud, you might attract the person to ask the next question, which is, they're probably, if they want you, they'll find you on LinkedIn, they'll get you when you're off the stage, but you need to connect with them. If you go on and you read slides,
you have 2 minutes to sell the connection, not sell the company.
Sell the connection. It doesn't need to be $100 billion company. It needs to be, I had a dog. I loved my dog. My dog died. I lost it. It was running around. I didn't know how to find a lost dog. I decided to create this little tag and I put it on my dog, and it never got lost again. Today I'm here trying to sell that solution to 10 other people that are like me in this world. And that's the kind of connection, because anyone in the crowd there lost a dog or knows that pain. And if you go deep and dissect that pain, the problem, focus on the other things later. How much, when, how. Do it after the 2 minutes. Let them come to you.
You're right.
I don't know if you get what I mean.
No, because this is so right, because I've attended these pitches before, and it's just people speaking very fast about the product, and they're running through the slides. And it's like, you can barely remember the company name, right? And it's one after the other. So as you said.
What are they going to remember? That person that lost their dog. You're that person that one thing, maybe 2 if you're lucky. A dog with $100 million company. You know what I mean? A person that lost a dog who has they're not going to remember the whole thing, especially in a crowded place with a lot of other people. So if you can just think clearly and realize that 2 minutes is actually a lot of time, how do you sell an emotion? I think you're ahead of 99% of everyone there. So what if watching a podcast got you there because you realized someone was saying this to you, and then you actually start paying attention to your story? You get on a podcast, and your podcast becomes your way of, like, someone gets on different podcasts to start their business. How do you put yourself out there? What is the right thing to say, and what should you not say?
This links very well, because many people come on the podcast and, well, not necessarily my podcast, but in general, go on podcasts.
You have an amazing podcast. I've seen your guests.
Thank you. And sometimes they, instead of focusing on stories, which could sell something bigger, they focus on products. And I think that is the biggest mistake. People don't need another advertising campaign. And I remember saying, like, I put a LinkedIn post out the other day, and I said, there is a company in Egypt. It's a software-based company, and their product is to do with financial. They sell financial products, but they're primarily a technology company.
Right.
When you're selling financial products to consumer, your main issue is building trust.
Exactly.
And building trust is not necessarily through a 60 episode course that you're going to release on the financial product and how it works and all of that. So what they did, which I thought is very, very smart, they made a podcast, and the podcast had nothing to do with their company.
Nothing.
Nothing to do with their company. But they brought on the faces of people that people can relate to,
right,
and that people are familiar with. So all of a sudden,
familiarity beats trust.
Exactly. All of a sudden, they thought of those people as like indirect ambassadors of this company. This company gains so much trust, and it drives the curiosity to go explore the product. And they've never mentioned what the product is. And I think that is the brilliance behind storytelling.
Exactly. You know, I'll give you one more story. You spoke earlier when we were talking outside. You spoke of a famous podcaster called Stephen Bartlett.
Yes.
I was sitting with my wife the other day, and we were watching this episode where there was a guest who was a lawyer.
Yeah.
#1 lawyer in New York, blah, 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 blah. His dog dies. He starts crying on the show. The wife gets emotional. That emotion gets stuck in her mind. 2 weeks later, I was just sitting down, by the way, not paying attention to the show. She was watching. 2 weeks later, we were sitting and talking, and she said, "That guy, I'm still thinking about him." I said, "Which guy are you thinking about?"
Yeah.
She said, "That guy who was crying on Stephen Bartlett's show. His dog died. He was real. He was being real." So my question to you, Adham, you're a smart guy. If my wife doesn't want to be with me tomorrow, which lawyer do you think she'll call?
That lawyer. Yeah. And she doesn't even need to know how good he is. You're right. I think with that, we end the episode. I think people should definitely go out there and search up Business with Bartawi on YouTube and other channels as well. You've hosted some amazing guests.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for the guys, for the guys who are watching this and have made it to this far in the show, I would say subscribe to, it's called InvestorPod, right?
InvestPod, yeah.
InvestPod, sorry.
Yep.
Subscribe to InvestPod if you still haven't already. I understand based on normal statistics that people like to view, but they don't really press that subscribe button.
Yeah.
So everyone who's made it this far, it means you've got some sort of value. Subscribe, and then, the guests will always improve when there's affirmation that the audience enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
It's the highest motivation. That's why we do what we're doing.
Right. Thank you, Mahmoud.
You're welcome.